Hi, my name is Julie Noble, and I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Kingston. And I am being joined today by Tae-Wook Cha of Supermass Studio. Thank you for joining us in this challenging time. This is not the standard way of us having our project meeting, so I appreciate your patience and understanding. Welcome to a Weaving the Waterfront meeting of the City of Kingston. Please note this meeting is being recorded, and the full video and transcript will be available on the city's website. Today's focus is on the climate adaptive design project of Kingston Point Park and Beach. The City of Kingston is participating with stakeholders and partners on Kingston's waterfront to improve the resiliency and sustainability of the shoreline, implement an economic development strategy, and better access to the river, parks, and open space on the waterfront for people on foot, on bicycle, and in boats. You can read about all of our exciting work on the waterfront on the Hudson-Ronda Riverport homepage of the city's website. Specific information for this project can be found at kingston-ny.gov/KPCAD. Today's Project Advisory Committee meeting is focused on the work of Supermass Studio with E-Design Dynamics and Emphasis Design. Funding for this project is from NUIPIC and New York State DEC's Hudson River Estuary Program and is funded directly to Supermass Studio. Kingston Point was the site of the 2017 Cornell Climate Adaptive Design Studio. Building on concepts and strategies explored in the CAD studio, this project is evaluating sea level rise scenarios and assessing their implications for the city and the larger Hudson River estuary ecosystem. Key findings and potential climate adaptation measures with graphic materials and exhibits will be one of the deliverables of the project. The project will develop an overall plan with engineering concepts that balances opportunities for ecological health, resiliency, and recreation. Through additional engagement with relevant stakeholders, a demonstration project was chosen, which is the development of an engineering design that will utilize the beach as a sea level rise adaptation device while enhancing natural habitats and park programming. Depending on the final development of the project, the preliminary design may be a combination of various elements. The preliminary design will provide the necessary design, engineering, and permitting documentation for the city to finalize and subsequently to construct the design. The purpose of today's meeting is to review the draft preliminary design and to solicit feedback from stakeholders before completion of the design. There will be a brief presentation, and then you'll have an opportunity to provide feedback via comments and a survey at the end of the presentation. I would now like to turn it over to Tae-Wook for his presentation.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, thanks for joining today's presentation for Kingston Point Beach Climate Adaptive Design. My name is Tae-Wook Cha, Principal at Supermass Studio, a lead landscape architect and planner in charge of the project. We prepared the presentation with our consultant team, E-Design Dynamics Ecological Engineers, and Emphasis Design, Graphic Design, and Public Outreach Consultant, in close collaboration with our municipal partners, New York State DEC Hudson River Estuary Program, NUIPIC, and the City of Kingston. This presentation is a continuation of the citywide Weaving the Waterfront Kingston open house we had in October last year. Many of you would also remember the Cornell University's Climate Adaptive Design Kingston studio, where this project was originated. This is the projected sea level rise expected at Kingston Point based on the aggressive scenario at high tide. By 2050, some of the properties on North Street may get affected. By 2080, half of Kingston Point, along with its beach, is expected to go underwater. To mitigate the sea level rise, we laid out 3 potential scenarios for future of Kingston Point. Scenario 1 is called Nature Island with minimal intervention. If we let the nature take its course, Kingston Point will essentially return to nature by 2080. Sea level rise will flood the lower grounds and make the high grounds to become islands. Scenario 2 is called Channel Island with moderate intervention. The idea is to connect the two high grounds on the front with raised and reinforced beach and raised Delaware Avenue in the back to protect the beach and the active recreation spaces. By 2080, water will claim the rest of the areas into a channel island. Scenario 3 is called Peninsula with most intervention. Added extension of the high grounds in the front and embankment of Delaware Avenue in the back would protect the existing forest habitats and the properties on North Street, keeping the point as peninsula. Based on the study of these three scenarios, we concluded that the reinforcement and improvements of the Kingston Point Beach can have the most benefits to mitigate the sea level rise, both for the community and the area itself. The existing conditions of the beach show high grounds on both sides of the beach, with the existing programs of swimming, beach volleyball, parking, and forest habitats. This section study shows how the sea level rise by 2080 can be mitigated by connecting the two high grounds of upland forests on both sides of the beach. We started our study with programming framework with popular beach recreational activities. This can include sunbathing, beach volleyball, beach pavilion, grandstand, kayak launch, and beach pier. Then we started developing climate adaptive design toolkits. The first toolkit relies on soft treatment of habitat restoration and ecological management. This can provide more adaptive flood mitigation. The second design toolkit starts introducing bioengineering techniques. This can include living shorelines, vegetated berms, eco-concrete blocks, or habitat-creating living breakwaters. Then we can strategically supplement the soft engineering with hard-engineered structural reinforcements, such as bulkheads, ripraps, rock steps, that may also function as beach trails and pathways. This leads to three core design elements: beach on the low ground, hills and berms on the high ground, and habitats that connect the two. The first design alternative is based on Landform Hill and berm to connect the two high grounds on both sides of the beach. The Landform Hill provides recreational and ecological programs of activity decks, pier, picnic meadow, and upland woodlands. The berm protects the inland areas and provides promenade function. At both ends of the beach, Wetland Cove and Brick Beach living shoreline connect the beach to the larger habitat ecosystems. In this aerial view, you can see how all these programs come together to provide programs and flood barrier function in the present-day water level. By 2050, sea level rise will start claiming part of the beach area. By 2080, most of the beach will go underwater at high tide. The activity areas on the hill and the recreational areas behind the berm will stay protected. From the top of Landform Hill, you will have a great view of the beach through the newly introduced upland forest and picnic meadow. Activity decks and a pier are shown in the foreground. As you get closer to the beach, you have an open view of the water and beach. The promenade on the planted berm extends the protection to the other side of the beach. The view of the beach and parking lot from the promenade berm shows how the flood protection works. The height of the vegetated berm is about 4 feet from the ground in the parking lot, so you can still see the beach from the parking. Design alternative 2 is called linear terraces. Linear terraces are held up by constructed edges. It starts out as narrow planted terraces on one end and becomes generously sized beach terraces on the other end. Each terrace steps up and functions as flood barrier along the beach. Similar to the alternative one, Wetland Cove and Brick Beach living shoreline on both ends connect the beach to the larger ecosystems. In this aerial view of present-day waterline, you can clearly see how each linear terraces is stepping up to form a flood barrier and still maintains generous beach spaces. By 2050, the beach at the lowest level will go underwater, but the raised terrace beaches will remain protected. By 2080, the first tier raised terrace will go underwater at high tide, leaving the top tier beach terrace still protected and functioning. Constructed edges of the linear terraces take up smaller footprints, and this allows more generous program spaces on each terrace. Paired with constructed hard edges, planted terraces will absorb more flood water and stabilize the ground more effectively when interacting with floods. The view from beach shows how the linear terraces are stepping up to form an effective flood barrier. Terrace edges function as grandstand on the beach for people to sit on and enjoy the water view on Hudson. Gentle 5% accessible ramps do not require handrails and connect between the terraces. The view from the upper terrace promenade shows how the planted terraces with native riverine plants transition into beach terraces, large enough to accommodate beach volleyball courts. Access to the beach from the parking lot is provided by a combination of gentle 5% accessible ramps and direct stairs. Views to the beach are maintained over the raised linear terraces. The third design alternative is called stacked terraces. This allows the most diversified programming opportunities. Flood protection is provided through a series of stepping up stacked terraces built with constructed edges. Terraces are in various shapes, sizes, and heights, and provide a range of programming opportunities, such as beach terrace, activity terrace, garden terrace, picnic terrace, lookout terrace, and grandstand. On one end of the beach, stacks of rocks with plantings create a rock outcrop terrace that connects to the existing rock outcrops on the shoreline. On the other end, Brick Beach living shoreline connects to the larger habitat ecosystems. Aerial view of the present-day waterline shows how the stacked terraces provide diverse program opportunities while preparing for future flood protection. The terraces are in geometric forms, but in a random and organic way. This allows shapes and programming of the terraces to be flexible if certain programs are preferred over others. As the sea level rises by 2050, the beach at the lowest level will go underwater. Articulation of the terrace edges will define a new shoreline. By 2080, as the water level keeps rising, the lower level terraces will go underwater at high tide and redefine the shoreline in a different way. The programs on the upper terraces will remain active while providing flood barrier function. View from the upper lookout terraces shows how the terraces are stacked up at varying heights, creating exciting program spaces. View from the beach shows a range of diverse experiences, both visually and experientially, from grandstand to vegetated slope to various program terraces. View from the lookout terrace on the top tier shows a continuous promenade connection from one end of beach to the other end. Access from the parking lot is provided by a combination of gentle 5% ramps and direct stairs with a view of the beach maintained over the stacked terraces. In comparison of the three design alternatives, each design has its own merits and advantages. Alternative 1, Landform Hill and berm, relies on earthworks and plantings. It is more cost-effective and ecological compared to the hard-engineered solutions, but it may add less protection to the beach area. Alternative 2, linear terraces, relies on a good combination of hard engineering and habitat creations. Its linear geometry allows generous but simpler programming spaces. Alternative 3, stacked terraces, provides the most diversified program opportunities with exciting and varied experiences and spaces, perhaps at an added construction cost. So, which one would be your favorite? We would like to hear from you to select the best design alternative to move forward to the next step. Before concluding this presentation, I want to give you an overview of where we are in the overall process. We started in August 2019 with a project kickoff and analysis. We held a Weaving the Waterfront open house in October 2019 and completed the analysis in December 2019. Based on the community input from the open house, we completed the overall framework plan in February 2020. Today, we are at the end of preliminary design alternatives phase to choose the best direction for the final design. Based on your input, we will develop the final preliminary design by September 2020. Future phases will include construction documentation and permitting process anticipated in 2021, followed by target construction of pilot project in 2022. That concludes my presentation today. Please make sure to take a short survey after this and have your voice heard for the climate adaptive future of Kingston Point. Thank you.